our new ebook here. We are really happy to have the opportunity to share it with you because, as Juliana said, a couple of friends that are here helping us, shaping and giving us comments, and that's what really inspiring for us. Actually, I want to thank them directly. We want to thank Dr. Wiley, Professor Wiley, and Juliana, and Chelsea, and Eric, and Jeremy, and also Sylvia. She is a friend of us that is working also with us in the Sustainability School project. But we are going to present a little bit about that. But this is, writing a book is the first time for me, and Ranulfo has written a couple of books before, but it's really a tough work. It's a lot of work to do when you try to put together your ideas, and we really try to do it in a simple way. We try to put together a book that is easy to read, and it's a book about a topic that is not so easy at the beginning. So thank you all for your comments, your suggestions, and all the inputs that you gave us in order to have this book together. Thank you.
We are living in a fast transition period for different things, especially for new types of money. As a knowledge, for example, do you remember the typewriter machine?
Yeah.
Do you remember the transition for typewriter machine to the first PCs? Okay, me too. The first PCs for to now evolved a lot, okay, increased a lot of benefits for us. Okay. In this knowledge, today we have the equivalent of typewriter machines are the central banks and the commercial investment shadow banks that have an obsolete business model that we have seen the consequences during decades. Crisis, increase of social inequality, bubbles, economic bubbles, okay? And now we have, since 2008, the beginning of new types of PCs, equivalent of PCs, okay? That is the experience like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies. They are in models in evolution. They needed to be designed better to support other issues like, for example, funding activities that promote sustainable development. Okay, in order to us to benefit ourselves from this transition period, we needed to have some knowledge regarding some topics like money. What is money? How the money is created by the banks and central banks. Most people don't have any idea how they create it. What are other types of money? That means how can be different? How we can have other types of money that are not created by the banks, central banks. How can we benefit ourselves? This kind of knowledge is not so easily found. If you go to economics bachelor, you don't see this. If you make a PhD, depending on the institute, you see or not. I made a PhD in economics, they never told me that. The only thing they told me is, okay, if there is a crisis, economic crisis in a country, you should ask help for the International Monetary Fund or the Banco Mundial, World Bank, and the other investment banks. Okay, that is the solution of the mainstream economics. It doesn't make sense for me. We need other solutions, because if you continue doing that, we always be in the hands of these guys, because they control the supply and of the money. This is unfair. Okay, we need to change that. In one way to change that is understand better what the money is, what types of money exist, what types of money we can create, and we need to have the ability to think ahead about money. We need to think about how we can design new systems. Okay, this is not so easy to do that, but after you learn the basics, you can see how you can improve your experience. Okay, we are designing some tools that we can have, and probably next year we'll have available for you. For example, a simulation program that you can simulate the functioning of a new currency model that you create together with your community. So you can play with your ideas, and the simulation will tell you what you can do, if you are doing well or not, how you can improve, in a way that you can test your ideas before doing this in practice. Okay, it's a way to accelerate the learning process. Okay, as I told you, we are living in a transition period. For example, since 1945 to 1973, we had the international monetary system called Bretton Woods system. That is, the dollar was backed by gold. To gold at a fixed exchange rate. 1 ounce was equivalent at $35. Okay, this system died in 1973. After that, we have the dollar standard. That means not only dollar, but all other currencies around the world: euro, yen, renminbi, real, colones in Costa Rica, pesos mexicanos. All of them I created without being backed by gold or any other thing. Okay, you see after reading the book how the central banks created and what are the relationship with this, with the environmental and social problems we are facing. Okay, since 2008, after the beginning of Bitcoin, now we are living in a hybrid international monetary system. That means Bitcoin, for example, is created by several guys around the world in an anonymous way. This is first one example only. Probably we can have our currency here to support activities related to sustainable development also. That will be, we can create it, okay, to support activities at the local level, regional, national, and international, to solve issues such as food security, such as reduction of ecological footprints, such as improvement of marine areas, and whatever we want to do. We can do that. We have the technology. What we need to do is to learn about these issues and think about how we can implement this system. Okay?
So this is the context of our book.
Yes.
We decided to write the book because, as Rodolfo was saying, this is a transitional period. And a lot of things are happening at the same time. So we need to be aware of this. We need to learn a lot. We need to learn fast. And we need to find new solutions to the problems we are facing, social and environmental problems. So that's why we created this ebook, to start the conversation about money, to start the conversation about the relationship of money and sustainability. So we created in 3 really simple parts. The first one is just about money. What is money? This is the fundamental question. We are not talking about that. What is money? What do you think that is? And who is creating this money? And why? And also the relationship between the money creation process we have today and the social and environmental problems that we have. It's a really, really strong connection between those things, and we are not thinking about that. Joshua Farley, which is a friend of us and a professor at the University of Vermont, he wrote the foreword for the book. And he shared with us a phrase. I don't remember the name of the professor that said that, but he said, if you're not worried, or if you don't have doubts about money, maybe you haven't thought about money much. Maybe you think you need to think more about money to have some of that. So That's the first part, and the first part also we include some examples of new types of money that are currently working in different parts of the world, so we can start seeing what other people is doing, and maybe get inspired by those solutions that are already in place. The second part is about the unsustainability of this the current money creation process that Rodolfo was talking about, because we want a new system, but we are living in a system that is already here and we need to deal with it. But we need to understand it first. So we did an effort to explain a really complex system in an easy way. We hope we did it. And the third part is mostly questions. What future, what we want to build together, and what can we do about it? What can you do? So we give some tips and ideas to start the conversation, to start sharing about this. And also at the end, we invite people to join us in this journey to create a new type of money for sustainability. We are doing the design, we are starting the design of this new cryptocurrency to address our social and environmental issues around the world. But we don't want to do it alone. We need your input and your ideas. So the book is an invitation, an open invitation to join us and to start sharing ideas about the problems we need to solve and look for new ways to solve.
The name of the phrase, the author of the phrase is Herman Daly.
Yeah, thank you. And all this effort, we created this online platform called Sustainability School. It's an online platform for sharing knowledge that is not commonly offered in universities and other educational institutions in a fast and affordable way. So our intention is to be a complement of the work that you are doing, and for example, the work that Logan we're speaking about. So we want to develop more books, more courses, more content to help in this new way of thinking.
And we invite you to participate because this is not our platform, our Karla and me. It's anyone who would want to participate are welcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we already have a group of people that is helping us. Juliana is part of that group, and we have a friend in Spain also helping us, and from Uruguay and Costa Rica and everywhere. So if you want to join us, you are of course welcome to do it. And so in the website you're going to find these areas that you can explore. It's really a really basic website right now, but it's improving over time. And of course, if you want the book, you can download it right now from the website. You can go to sustainability.school, go to the little button on top of the website, and it will guide you to the page. Yeah.
That's
and,
it.
And we thank you a lot, Dr. Dani, for the willingness to be here and to share the ideas about the book. So thank you for that. And please.
We invite you to go in.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to read this book and engage in conversation and learning, and I'm really pleased to present my thoughts and sort of reading of this book. So in their book, New Money for Sustainability, Ranulfo Paiva Sobrino and Karla Córdoba Brenes, I hope I said your names correctly, ask, isn't it strange that we are totally immersed in this financial system practically every day of our lives and actually know so little about how it works and who the players are? New Money for Sustainability starts with the question, what is money? How can it be changed to solve key environmental and social problems we face globally? A question develops into an extended conversation between the authors, which they now open up to you and I as readers, inviting us to reflect on how dominant forms of money are created, how other kinds of money, local and community monies, have and are being created to achieve particular projects and goals, and to see the connections between money systems and environmental systems. They want to build not only sustainability, but empower people's abilities to sustain through a broader and more diverse array of money types, which we could also think of as forms, that make use of different repertoires for using money and channeling value toward environmentally sustainable practices. One of the key insights of the book, which they share with the long line of money reformers and money technology innovators, as we've heard, is that money is a social creation that we have the power to change and repurpose in alliance with, as well as in counterpoint to the currently dominant system, itself a product of histories and overlapping relations of power and practice. The book's strengths, one of them, is a conversational framing and its generative capacity to open up new imaginative spaces for people to experiment with their own projects of money creation. Monetary diversity and biodiversity are folded into analogies between non-human animals and human economies to explore interrelated themes of efficiency, diversity, and resilience. So these themes are very much in line with concerns that have been studied in the anthropology and related disciplines of money, looking at the ways in which diversity and juggling currencies is a social practice that you see across the world, both within dominant and alternative currencies, and that people juggle both diverse market and social monies within and across different kinds of borders, territorial, economic, political, and cultural, to name a few. This is true within the so-called dominant money forms, as well as in the alternative monetary communities people create. So the first part of the book showcases 5 examples of money types, one of which is the prototype that the authors are developing. These examples nicely show how different types of money can emphasize some but not all functions of money, which are medium of exchange, store of value, unit of account, and I would add means of payment. And these different functions channel practices of consumption, production, and investment in different ways. So the authors single out the definition of money's role as a medium of exchange. In their definition of money, the interrelationship between community and the process of agreement to a standard and shared means of exchange is foregrounded. Some provocative questions here, for me, have to do with the nature of the community that is imagined. How does nature get included? Are non-human animals, waterways, forests, plants, and so on resources for the human community or members of the shared community to be sustained? Moreover, given that all money communities participate in boundary formation of some kind, someone is always excluded. Who and what can move across boundaries? What happens when value is extracted from one community and consumed or invested in another? How do values circulate and at what speed, and in what is held constant? What keeps people using and committed to the money community, given that even the current dominant one is held together through a lot of work, commitments, and ties of all sorts, wanted or not? So in the second part of the book, the authors provide a very accessible overview of some of the basic principles of money creation and the interrelations between central banks, private banks, and other financial entities upon which our money lives currently depend. The ways in which relations of debt and indebtedness are central to this setup are highlighted, and the steps through which debt relations of the formal economy play out are outlined. Here, the aim is to raise awareness of how the dominant system, with its reliance on debt and economic growth to extinguish that debt, gets in the way of other ways to live economy and puts pressure on or prohibits altogether long-term sustainable practices of interacting with the environment. So here's some provocative questions to consider going forward have to do with the nature of debt independence. The other side of debt is credit, and so how do we rethink both credit and debt relations in the dominant as well as alternative money communities? Moreover, how might interdependence between humans, non-humans, environment, and economy be differentiated from dependence that is unsustainable, as the authors describe in the book? The notion that economy or environment can be self-sustaining is one that in the current global system, problems and costs are externalized to other people, communities, and systems. So this book aims to bring the conversation about diversity of money and biodiversity into the same frame, opening up the possibility for imagining and enacting new ways of making money and sustainability a shared problem space that can be acted upon and remade by everyone, and not just experts. Money can be a form for cultivating what people want to sustain, socially, intergenerationally, and environmentally. It can also constrain or even destroy the goals and projects dependent upon money being there and in sufficient quantity and value. This is why the tools and resources for reflecting on the current money system and money creation in the book are just as important as the case studies of many alternatives that sit alongside and sometimes work together with the dominant system, but also alongside it. The explanation is not the end point for this book, but the beginning of the journey to learn and remake together the kinds of work money can do for and in the world. So just as the authors encourage us to reflect on the principles and aims of the dominant system of creating and organizing money, we can also pay attention to the detailed and situated experiences we have with money and payment in our daily lives to understand the interplay between money, values, and the remaking of economic and environmental futures. So in the spirit of part 3, I want to conclude with one mundane example that for me illustrates a few important themes of the book and illustrates how we can become observers and ethnographers, since I'm an anthropologist, of the small details of the financial systems and practices in which we are immersed, and really as a way of thinking alternative futures. So in January of this year, a social media post went viral about a mundane and ubiquitous practice we encounter daily, making a store purchase in cash. As an anthropologist studying money, my ethnographic sensibilities were piqued, and I was curious, what was this all about? In a Facebook post, a young mother recounted her experience waiting in line to pay at Target, a big box retail store. After a long day at work and with a cranky 1.5-year-old and her young daughter in tow, the exhausted woman was waiting in line to pay for a few items. She thought it would be a quick in and out trip, especially when paying with credit cards. As we all know, virtual money makes paying all the more quick and efficient. Instead, the woman found herself held up by the customer ahead of her in line. An elderly woman paying for each item in separate transactions with small change. The old woman struggled to count out the appropriate change, and she wasn't quite sure if she had enough for each item. She needed the help of the cashier to determine the price of each item after tax and the appropriate combination of coins to make up the value. The cashier patiently helped the elderly woman to sort through the coins and complete each transaction, while time, of course, crawled by for the mother waiting. As the mother bristled with intense, if ambivalent emotions, impatient at the inconvenience of having to wait, she noticed her young daughter attentively observing the interaction between the cashier and the elderly woman. She realized her daughter was learning a lesson. It was this lesson that the cash payment facilitated and about which the woman posted on social media. What did her daughter learn? What sort of lesson did this encounter with money have to teach? And what did the comments of a small slice of the 200,000 plus social media users who responded to and shared the post reveal about the multiple lessons this story encapsulated? So a detour, my own reading of this story. Through my work at the Institute for Money, Technology, and Financial Inclusion, I have encountered debates in the financial inclusion space about the benefits of replacing cash with mobile money and other forms of digital technology to facilitate broader inclusion of the poor, both in the developed and developing worlds. Based on this, I was curious if one of the lessons might be about the benefits of credit cards as more efficient than cash. The elderly woman's choice to pay in small change could be because of thriftiness or careful budgeting, or because she no longer has the full capacity physically and or mentally to manage her financial affairs. Alternately, the elderly woman's dependence on paying with small change could have generated a discussion about structural inequality and the systemic failures of our economic system that make her dependent on scarce money to meet her essential needs. As the empirical research also shows, it is generally the poor who bear the greatest costs in accessing formal financial services, who must depend upon fringe banking for access to loans with high interest payments that they struggle to pay back, remaining caught in a vicious cycle of debt. Or they remain shut out altogether because they don't meet the necessary identification or credit requirements. Cash is often the only option, which, however, has the benefits of anonymity and acceptance at face value, in contrast to the fees charged to someone, at least, when paying with credit cards. In the story here, cash and virtual money are forms of payment within the same currency. The cash with which the elderly woman was paying was issued by the central bank, the sole monetary authority allowed to issue legal tender. Meanwhile, the virtual money represented by the credit card is issued by private banks and other entities and circulates whether or not its corresponding value matches up the physical cash in the world. Indeed, this is one of the ways we can see the principle of debt at work in the current monetary system, precisely because all of the virtual accounts in the world are not settled all at once with the equivalent value in cash, nor could they be on short notice. We often don't think about the tension inherent within the cash and virtual forms of the so-called same or interchangeable standard money. But as you might have guessed, to go back to the lesson of this story, money was actually backgrounded. It was a medium to talk about other values. The lesson that the mother and most other commentators on the story wanted to talk about was a different one. Counting change became a medium for talking instead about the social value of patience, one that many argued is also in very short supply. Patience, empathy, putting others first, these were the values that the social media post emphasized and that the daughter was learning before her mother's agitated eyes. Though money was a conduit for the lesson, it was the young cashier who was the teacher. Money was a medium through which he enacted his embodied pedagogy, patiently helping the elderly woman even at the cost of falling short in the metrics his employer used to measure his work performance, which is the speedy completion of transactions per hour, as fellow retail working commentators pointed out. At first glance, this story may not seem to be about money, and perhaps it is not, but I use it to show the kind of background work of money that opens up the kinds of questions and concerns and conversations in the book. So in this story, as in the book, money is intimately related to social and material values of individuals and communities. We don't necessarily need money to teach the value of patience, just as sustainability of the environment may be about much more than just money. But in treating money systems and inequality separately from efforts to improve ecological resilience and sustainability, we can easily miss how money and ecology are mutually interdependent, even as one is foregrounded and the other backgrounded, depending upon the task at hand. And that's really what this book is trying to help us do, to foreground both at the same time. So while my story is about so-called standard money that we think of as singular and unitary, the fact that it takes different payment forms that play a variety of roles in social life is important. It also signals the importance and potential of money to be multiple and diverse, that once we recognize the necessary fictions of money, we can remake and repurpose it, creating and channeling monetary and social values to multiple ends, all the while thinking about the communities, human, non-human, environmental, we are constituting together in the process. Thank you.